got a question. Why does Chuck Schumer, the Democrat leader in the Senate, continue to get a pass for his blatant 1974 racist scheme to get rid of blacks from a neighborhood in New York? Now, Schumer is always teeing off on President Trump, specifically for President Trump's refusal to concede the election to Joe Biden.
Now, Republican leaders in Congress should also do the right thing. Republican leaders must unequivocally condemn the president's rhetoric and work to ensure the peaceful transfer of power on January 20th. I have been heartened to see a few of my Republican colleagues, it's 3, I believe, congratulate the winning ticket. But too many, including the Republican leader, have been silent or sympathetic to the president's fantasies.
For 4 long years, Democrats like Schumer have suggested that Donald Trump is a racist.
Do you think that Donald Trump is a racist?
Look, his comments over and over and over again can be described as nothing but racist and obnoxious. He says he's not a racist. Well,
he's the least racist person.
The least racist person you'd ever speak to.
All time.
We are once again faced with the very serious and looming question. Do we want a government of laws or of men? Do we want to be governed by the laws of the United States or by the whims of one man? I don't think my Republican colleagues fully appreciated what they were unleashing when they voted in the impeachment trial to excuse the president's conduct. The president managed to insult Vice President Biden's deceased son and smear a living one, please a fringe white supremacist group, and cap the night off by yet again casting doubt on our own elections, tarnishing our own democracy. Those were just his worst moments. The rest of the debate saw the president heap lie upon lie, lies big and small, and every size in between.
He is totally tone deaf to what is racism, what is bigotry, and I wouldn't accuse him of being a racist or bigot himself, but he tolerates it and uses it in ways, whether he's aware or not, it's poisonous for America.
Now, around the same time of this racist Schumer scheme, which I'm going to come to in a moment, young Donald Trump was accused by the Federal Housing Authority of discriminating against would-be black and brown renters.
14,000 apartments in 39 different buildings, all mostly white tenants. That is until the Department of Justice took notice in 1973 and slammed Donald Trump and his father Fred Trump with a lawsuit. Trump management was charged with discriminating against African Americans and breaking federal law. Donald Trump, then just 27, was president of the company.
The Department of Justice accused the Trumps of violating the Fair Housing Act, arguing they were turning away renters based on race and color.
That was 1973-75. Right smack dab in the middle, 1974, is when Chuck Schumer introduced his racist scheme. You see, Schumer was running for office, and he went to a meeting, and a young man, 16 years old at the time, named Jay Homnick, attended that meeting with his dad. It turns out there was a group of blacks living in this area in a neighborhood in New York called Flatbush, and a group of racist neighbors wanted him out.
I was just a fly on the wall, essentially. I was 16, 17, something like that. My father got invited to this meeting. He wasn't that politically active, but he was a prominent figure. And this was in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. And they were introducing Charles Schumer to us. And I think this is before he ran for Congress. He was becoming a state assembly person. So they were introducing, and they were trying to sell him to us. He was not a very impressive figure, I must say. He was whiny, nasal, didn't seem to have much confidence. And they were trying to put him forward and sell him on the basis, and unfortunately, all the assumptions that went into this are horrible, but they put him forward on the basis that he's going to get the blacks off Avenue K. If you know the Flatbush section, it tends to be a white section of single-family homes, and for whatever reason, over the years, it evolved in that way. But there's a cluster of apartment houses on Avenue K where blacks resided. And frankly, they were not violent. There wasn't any kind of there were no clashes going on in the streets. There was no fear. If there was a problem, I didn't detect a problem. I lived there, but to whoever had a problem with it, it would have only been on a strictly racist type of basis.
Mm-hmm.
And so they brought Schumer to us, and they say, this guy's a genius. He's got a plan to get the blacks off Avenue K. Really? How's he going to do it? Well, here's what he's going to do. So he's going to make some kind of a state-funded refurbishing of those buildings. So on paper, it'll look like he's helping the blacks. But, of course, they can't refurbish it with the people living there, so they'll move the people out to other locations and while they're refurbishing. Then they'll turn it into a type of a co-op unit where you have to buy your way back in. They were assuming that most of those people would not have the funds necessary to buy back in. And so by then they would already would take a year or two for the construction. They would be settled in the new area anyway. They wouldn't bother to come back, and then they would sell these apartments to white people, and that would be the solution.
Now, Mr. Homnick describes this meeting led by a young, ambitious politician named Chuck Schumer. How many people were at this meeting, roughly?
This is not the kind of thing you say in front of a large crowd. It was, 10, 12 people who had some clout.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess there was a sort of assumption that you could, talk this kind of inside baseball talk. I mean, I was very, very uncomfortable with a lot of the premises that went into this whole, interaction. I mean, there was an assumption that, of course, we want to get rid of the blacks, and that this young Harvard-educated, whippersnapper is going to come up with a great solution how to accomplish that. It was awful.
Now, that was 1974, the year before Donald Trump entered into that consent decree, which, by the way, admitted no guilt. Now, why is there a no-fly zone over Chuck Schumer? So, Jay, how does a man like Chuck Schumer, and no matter how popular he is in New York, everybody's got enemies, why haven't his opponent used this scheme against him in any of his campaigns?
Well, I think that the witnesses are embarrassed. It's the people who know about it are the people who collaborated with it, and they don't really want to put themselves out there. I was 16 years old, so I have no skin in the game. I could tell you the story, but
Jay, if I were running against Chuck Schumer, the first thing I would do is grab Jay Homnick, sit him down, videotape him for 60 seconds, cut an ad, and put it out there. I'm shocked that somebody has not done this. This is a blatantly racist scheme for somebody who frequently pulls out the race card. He's referred to Donald Trump as a racist. For crying out loud, talk about walking, talking hypocrisy. And as you know, Jay, Donald Trump entered into a consent decree in 1975, at least he and his dad did. Trump was 28 years old. And that's used against him as Exhibit A for racism. Well, this happened around the same time, 1974. Yet there's a no-fly zone over discussing this about Chuck Schumer. I'm stunned, Jay. I really am. Now, over the years, Mr. Homnick has written about this a couple of times, but it hasn't made any difference. Why?
I suspect that I might have undercut my own case by. I was inspired by that experience to become a writer and in the political realm. And so now it's very easy for people to say, oh, yeah, he's a conservative writer. He writes at the American Spectator. And, they can dismiss me. But I'm an actual eyewitness, ear witness. I was present.
All the Democrats, the anti-racism party. And keep in mind, the only reason the scheme failed is that the blacks were able to raise the money and move back in, this time into nicer digs than they had before.
Well, it did get implemented in that they did do the refurbishing, but they underestimated the capacity of the people to move back. They were able to raise the funds and came back, most of them. And it's pretty much the neighborhood is the same as it's always been, except that the blacks ended up with better housing, which was all to the good, but that was not the intention.
Can you say hypocrisy? So, Jay, when you hear Chuck Schumer today refer to Donald Trump as a racist, as the wall as racist, and you hear Democrats make all of these deplorable comments about his supporters as being racist, and Chuck Schumer is the leader of the party in the Senate, what's your reaction?
Well, I'm horrified, and as I have been for many years, to see the way this man continues to prosper despite, being a very knavish individual, to use an old word.
So here was a man whose career was launched on a racist premise, on a manipulation of political power to achieve racist ends. Absolutely disgusting.
Now, what's the over-under on when somebody in the media, hell, the black media, is going to write a story about Chuck Schumer and his 1974 racist scheme?
Sorry, Jack. Chucky's back.
I'm Larry Elder, and we've got a country to say. I'll see you next time. Chucky.